Welcome back, everybody. It's your girl Evie, and we are going to be talking about Law and Order Organized Crime, Season 2, Episode 11, As Nottingham Was to Robin Hood. So we do it like we regularly do it. How did it start? What happened? Who did it? Why? And how did it end? So as usual, we get a recap about what was happening last week. Constantine escaping and Angela being in on it with Richard. And we see that Richard and Constantine and Angela were actually talking. It looks like it was in his basement. I'm not sure of that. It probably was some unknown location that he happens to own. And we see all of that recapped up to find out what is going to be happening as of this week, right? So, what happened? Well, how does it start? Well, Constantine, we know he escaped. Richard's been helping him. Richard wants to help him as far as getting him to be on his side. We know that. So we open up with Governor Teddy. Remember Teddy, y'all? Remember his wife was killed by the Albanians? Remember that? By Reggie? Anyway, Governor Teddy again is talking about the capture of Sebastian. He is letting them know that there is a manhunt for him and they are going to find him. That he's a cyber criminal. Nobody wants to take this for granted and that they should be careful. So we see Richard is actually watching the news when this happens. So he's watching the whole event unfold. And we see him looking at several computer screens. Now Angela sees Sebastian in the shower. She comes in and she says, well, breakfast is ready. But she doesn't leave. She sees him naked in the shower and she hands him a towel, but she don't leave. Anyway, so we see that Sebastian and Richard get to talking and Richard says, you know, I have this thing with Elliott, this cop. And he says, yeah, but I don't want to get in the middle of y'all's beef. So he says, I'm not interested in money. I'm not interested in what you got going on with Elliott. I feel sorry for both of y'all, but I'm out, right? So he starts getting dressed. He starts putting his stuff together. Like he just gonna pimp up out of there, right? Wrong. So anyway, Richard tells him that the banks, the institutions, the NYPD, and all of that need to go down. And Sebastian says, well, I don't want to have anything to do with that. So he really thinks he can leave. So now he threatens Sebastian, Richard does. And he says, well, do you want to go back to where you were? And I think that's a bad idea for him to really threaten Sebastian at this point, but okay. So Sebastian doesn't really know who Richard is. Richard thinks that Sebastian owes him something. And Sebastian says, yeah, I owe somebody, but it ain't you. So Angela laughs. And then Richard tells Gareth, I guess his driver, to take Sebastian somewhere and drop him off somewhere nasty. Because Sebastian is going to leave whether he wants him to or not. So he says, but what's funny is that Richard tells Sebastian that he's going to remarry Angela. And as soon as Sebastian leaves, Angela says, I'm not going to remarry you. And he says, yes, you are. And she just looks at him like, I cannot stand you. So what happened? Elliott and his crew are working with Jet and Malachi, her hacker friend. And he reminds her, I don't really have to be here because she's telling him, yeah, you do. And he tells her, well, you smell great, by the way. He is always flirting with her and she does not flirt back, but I think she really does like him. Well, then we see a mom and a daughter and they're talking about Sebastian. So obviously Sebastian has a daughter of his own and he had a girl and he was with this girl, but he hasn't contacted her or his daughter for some unknown reason. I guess maybe because of the mom, because the mom ain't feeling him, the grandmother that is. And she tells the police, Sergeant Bell and Elliott, basically to beat it, go take care of somebody else, go save some other children. So they really need help. Well, we cut to Sebastian digging up a box of money that he buried because he's really self-sufficient. Like he always got a plan. He keeps it moving. So then we see Elliott and Sergeant Bell in the car and they talk and Elliott says, do you remember when Richard was doing that podcast and he said he wants to make the world safer for our children? And she says, yeah, I remember him saying that. He's like, I'm telling you, Richard's in on this. And she's like, yeah, but we need evidence. We can't just arrest him for no doggone reason. So Sebastian thinks he's doing good, and they notice Sebastian doesn't really like Richard, and that's a good thing. Now Jet and Malachi actually get a hit on Discord. They get a thread, and the thread says that they're going to be acts of resistance, mass chaos, hackers are going to be going crazy, ATMs are going to be going off, banks be getting hacked, security companies, everything. Even the traffic lights are being compromised because Sebastian's followers are being told to do all of this, I guess, to throw them off the scent of Sebastian. Well, we got ransomware hackers. We got white hat hackers turned black hat hackers. And then Richard appears in the FBI meeting with the governor. And he says, Governor, you really can't trust them. He says Sebastian's laying low. He says that they can expect more attacks because, remember, he's an expert on cybersecurity, remember? And he says you can expect personal attacks. Check your phones. So he tells them to all check their phones. He's telling the FBI now to check their phones and the governor. And sure enough, there is ransomware. There is somebody has hacked into their phones. So he presents them with a Faraday bag, a Faraday, like in the Faraday cage. This bag that they put their phone in keeps someone from hacking their phone. Like, I'd like to have one of those bags. Really, I would. Like, where can I buy one? Does Amazon have one? I don't know. But I think it's a great idea. So Richard appears like he's helping them, but I know doggone well he's not really helping them. So Elliott's not feeling Richard being in the middle of all of this. He knows he ain't helping him. So Elliott brings up them being on the same bus together, Richard and Sebastian. And he says, well, I don't know where he's going with this governor, so just ignore him. So the governor tells him, y'all better find this guy. And he says, we're almost there because you're sitting right next to him, basically. So the governor hangs up. He just ends the call because he's like, whatever. So then we see Sebastian in the park. He's being delivered a suit and noodles. Like, he wants some Asian noodles, and this guy does not bring Asian noodles, so he ain't happy. But he tips him anyway. So Elliott, of course, is following Richard again. And I know Richard sees him because he like bumps into this guy and kind of turns around so he can peep what's going on. He definitely is leading Elliott somewhere. So Sebastian goes to the bank in this suit. He tells the teller that he wants to open up a bank account for Kesha Jones, which happens to be the janitor's daughter that was killed when he made that mistake all those years ago when they were making that robbery of the bank. But anyway, so the teller identifies with him because he looks at her shirt, he assesses her, and he says this, that, and the other, and it gets gets to her, and they get to talking and develop a rapport shortly. But he wants her to open this account, but not in his name, but she won't do it. So she pushes the panic button like she's supposed to. She's doing her job. But should she have really done that? I think she should have. But does she know if Sebastian's going to get back at her? I'm not sure. So when she alerts security, Sergeant Bell and Elliott come down there and they talk to her. And Elliott ends up losing Richard, by the way, because he dashes into a car and he's out. They go down, they talk to the teller, she tells them what happens, they say, okay, thank you. So Malachi likes to flirt with Jet. They tell him to get a message to Sebastian. And she's like, well, if he's on Discord and he's watching, let's try. So Elliott says he's one to, he basically tells Sebastian, we'll help you. Whatever it is that you're doing, if you're trying to do right and leave money for this girl, because now we figured out why you want to do it, we'll help you. And he says, okay. So he sends Malachi a little message back, and he tells him how to decrypt the message and get the instructions, and then he'll turn himself in after he gets this girl her money, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to help this little girl to grow up since he took her father away from her, so they don't have to worry. And then he says he'll go back to prison. He don't really care. So Jet and Malachi are in the park now with the instructions. A payphone rings. It's Sebastian. He tells them what he wants them to do, to put the money into cryptocurrency for Kesha, and he wants to tell Kesha's mom himself personally, then he'll turn himself in. $200,000 is what he wants to give them. He says, once I verify the money's in there, I'll surrender in front of her house. But I got to talk to her mom first. So we cut to Elliott's mom. She's sitting in the courtyard. She's smoking a cigarette, and we hear this whistling. Now, you know doggone well that's Richard, right? I know it's Richard whistling out there because she hears the gate go off. She hears the gate open, and she's like, well, who's there? Well, of course, she doesn't go look. You know, she's scared. So she calls Elliott. And Elliott's like, Mom, I'm outside. And she's like, look, it's somebody here. And then Elliott sees Richard. So now he is pissed. So now he confronts Richard. Richard has a slice of pizza in his hand. He gets in his car. But before he can close his door, Elliott pulls that door open and was like, look, let me tell you something. If you are around my family, if you try to hurt my family, I will blow your head off. Okay? And he puts his gun up to his head and everything. He's like, you gonna find yourself in an unmarked grave in a minute. Keep playing. And Richard's like, okay. You know, nothing phases this guy at this point. So Elliott kicks his door and then pimps off. I'm like, okay, Elliott. So then he goes and talks to his mom. And I love his mom because she keeps it real with Elliott all the time. She tells him, look, son, there's no light that's been in you. I see you, but I don't see you, right? And she's like, look, you can't let this guy change who you are. You changing who you are and destroying yourself is not going to bring your wife back. And I love his mom. She's so smart. He's probably so smart because of her and Olivia and the fact that he has good, you know, he can think on his own is what I'm trying to say. So who did it? So Sergeant Bell won't arrest Sebastian. And the feds have the case now because Elliott wants to make sure that this little girl gets the money. But does she? Does she get the money? Well, we see that Sebastian walks by all the cops because he's now shown up at Kesha's house and he wants to give the money to her himself. So he walks by all the cops. The FBI is out there in droves. They go out there and he walks by, knocks on the door. Mrs. Jones opens the door, Kesha's mom. She says, yeah, you want to talk to me? Here I go. You know, anyway. So she says, you know what? You took away her dad. You took away her dad. You didn't give her an opportunity. You caused all this pain. He used to coach her. Now she's never going to get that. And Sebastian's about to cry. And he's like, look, I'm so sorry for taking her dad away from her. But here's a little something, something, so y'all don't have to worry. And she's like, Now, she don't turn down that money, though. She take that check, okay? But she also tells him, you deserve to be in prison. So he gets up and he gets ready to leave. So Mrs. Jones says you deserve to be in prison. He says bye to Kesha. He leaves peacefully and he does surrender. Like he says he's going to surrender. So he gets in the car. They take him off. They drive off. And Elliott and all of them are watching all of this on closed circuit TV. They can see everything. And they see him leave. But come to find out, he's in the wrong van because the FBI pulls up to pick him up. And they're like, well, where is he? And they're like, but we just put him in a... No, they put him in the wrong van. Like that wasn't even the van. I knew it. Like Richard, I knew Richard wasn't going to let him go. You know, just like that. So why? So Richard wants Elliott to be known as an overzealous cop. He wants to convince the governor that Elliott is not on the up and up and that he's crazy and that that the governor should really be looking at Elliott while Elliott is looking at Richard. So he's trying to like convince him of that. Now we see that Sebastian has basically been kidnapped because he's like, y'all taking me back to jail? You know, that was fun. And then the driver's like, no, I'm taking you where the boss told me to take you. And he chlorophylls him, you know, puts the thing over his mouth. He passes out. When he wakes up though, Angela's right there. Sebastian wakes up, he's got a towel over his face, and Angela's telling him that, look, what you did for Kesha was beautiful, but you can do that for so many people that are poor and oppressed and need your help. I will help you do it if you'll do it. And he says, you will? And she's like, yes, I will. It'll give me hope. They both smile. Then she goes outside. She sees that Elliott, Sergeant Bell, and all the police are at her house because they figure, you know, she's got something to do with it. She comes out, put her hands up. They're like, look, we're not here for you. We're here for Sebastian. She's like, well, he was here, but he left. He stole my car, and y'all can catch him. In the meantime, we know that she gave him some noodles, some Asian noodles. She must have been listening to what he had to say. He must have been bugged in some kind of way. They knew exactly what he wanted. And then she says that she don't really trust Richard. She's not really trying to convince him to trust Richard, but she wants to do something good with her life too. So she gives him food, and she sends him on his way. She tells them, Elliott and Sergeant Bell, he stole my car. You can find it, So how does it end? Angela calls Richard, says Sebastian has left. The police are looking for him. Elliott goes to Angela's house, but she's not there anymore. She told Sebastian that she doesn't want to have anything to do with it, is what she said when she was telling them before that he had left, that she didn't want to have anything to do with his schemes and Richard's. Well, Sebastian is going to meet up with Richard. So he meets up with Richard at this abandoned building. And he's, I think they're on the 7th floor, because Sergeant Bell and Elliott find the car. They find it at this abandoned building. They go in there. They see that the elevator's gone all the way up to 7, so they take it to 7. Well, what do they see? They start getting off with their guns. But before they get off the elevator, Richard calls Elliott on the elevator as an unknown caller, of course, and tells him, I got my boy Sebastian. I got Angela back. What you got? I told you this was going to work the way I wanted to work, basically. So when they get off the elevator, now they're on the hunt for Sebastian and Richard. Now Elliott sees them around the corner, and he's trying to tell Sergeant Bell where they are on the east side, but she says, I don't even see nothing. So they go around, they kind of meet up after they, scan the area, and when they see them, they see Elliott and they see Sebastian, and then all the lights go out. It's completely dark in the building. Next thing they know, they hear a helicopter. Whoop, 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 whoop. So now the helicopter is outside, of course, and it's taken off. And now they both look at each other like, oh man, we should have seen this coming. Yeah, you should have seen this coming. Because Richard's never going to be cornered. He's always got a plan. And Sebastian always got a plan. So now Sebastian's working with Richard. I guess he knows now that Richard is not going to let him go. And he talked to Angela about doing what's right. But is Sebastian really going to work with them? I think Sebastian's too smart for the both of them. But we have yet to see. I guess we'll see later. So the scene ends with the helicopter taking off. Period. Elliott is pissed. So I really appreciated this episode. It was really good. So what do you think Richard's on? What do you think Sebastian's going to do? This guy is smart. Do you think he's going to betray Angela and Richard? Let me know in the comments. If you like the content from what you saw today, please consider subscribing. I cover Law and Order SVU and Law and Order Organized Crime, and I'm here for it all the time with you guys. If you have comments, please leave them for me. I absolutely love them. But until my next video, Law and Order on. I love you guys.